It was at this moment that he knew.
He bucked up. Welcome. You're listening to Bucked Up with Sam Buck.
Now you fucked up. Now you fucked up. Now you fucked up.
This is what goes through my guest's head when they listen.
Now you fucked up. 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 Now you have fucked up.
Welcome, Matthew Broussard. Thank you so much for being on my podcast. I've been a fan for a really long time, so it's an honor to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
I first saw you on Roast Battle, actually, and you were the person I wanted to win. I'm not really a sports person, so when Roast Battle came on, I was like, oh my God, this is like the perfect thing for me. It's like kind of sports like.
Someone described it as Street Fighter, but with your friends.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. That's way too loud for mine. So did you get into roasting through comedy, or were you always doing roasting separately? Because I feel like it's kind of a separate art form.
It was, I kind of stumbled into it. I had done one roast battle against Sean Leary, probably in 2014 or 15, just to do it. I was terrible. I didn't do very well. And then in 2015, I was a new face in Montreal. And I was asked to compete in this tournament, the Roast Battle Tournament, International Roast Masters Invitational. And I just said yes because I can't say no to opportunities in comedy. And I ended up going all the way to the finals by sheer luck. And got like a kind of a fast course in it. And and then the next time I did it was for Comedy Central. One thing I did do, independent of roasts, was I did a lot of roast battles. I did roasts. I did character roasts. I did at least a couple of those in LA, where you would go up as, like, I think I was Batman for one of them. I was Einstein for one of them. Who else was I? I was Draco Malfoy. And that was fun because you're not insulting people, you're just insulting characters. And I'm not particularly drawn to the fact that it's so mean. I just like the jokes aspect of roasting and roast battling.
Well, that's what I liked about you. I remember one of your jokes about the gravitational pull. Like, I remember that still to.
Thank you.
Just such a smart joke. And you just worded it well, and it was long. And I remember being like, oh, it's like a real joke writing thing. Cause I've done a few roasts here and there, but it is like, you either get too mean, or like if it's too wordy, you can't really, the audience loses attention. And I remember I did it with one of my friends, and I hurt his feelings afterwards. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, I don't think I want to do roasts afterwards.
Well, I've said before, but if stand-up comedy is basketball, roast battling is a game of horse. It's taking one small element of comedy, which is your joke writing, and there's not that much performance involved, and testing it out one unit at a time. So I really like it for that, because I really like writing jokes. I really like individual punchlines and the structure underneath them. So it's more or less just like getting to focus group your jokes one line at a time. And you can play with the tension of them being mean, but some of the best roast jokes I've heard weren't mean at all. JP McDade had one that was just such a brilliant joke. I watched him roast battle someone. He said Stewart has social anxiety, just like we were all talking about before he got here. And that's not a joke about Stewart. That's just a great joke.
That is just a great joke. I love that so much.
Yeah, JP McDade, follow him. He's brilliant.
Do you do them? Do you do it still? It seems like you like to talk about like the art of stand-up. I know you have a podcast about your girlfriend starting in stand-up, but do you like talking about like the art form? Or are you like that's
much
business?
Too much, yeah, to a fault. I mean, I like breaking it down. I think it's really cool I think the thing I like most about comedy, besides the endless validation from strangers it gives me, is the how something that's so seemingly subjective can be so consistent. How a set of 7 words, if you change one intonation, one letter, stops making people laugh. But if you happen to land on those perfect 7 words, it makes groups of 20 people, groups of more than 20 English people speaking people laugh 99% of the time. That's crazy. So there's some science underneath it. There's some logic defining it that we have yet to figure out, and no computer can do it. And the best we have at solving it and repeating it is a group of people who go to bars every night.
It's crazy. Have you been?
Yeah.
Have you been going back? I know you're performing at the Denver Works. Is that where have you been doing shows?
Next show, yes. I've been performing on New York City. So a lot of park shows, which is they're challenging in ways that I haven't been challenged in a while. You have to perform more. A lot of jokes get lost in the air. There's a lot more distraction. So it's been making me kind of relearn the fundamentals. And I've been doing rooftop shows, which are fucking cool. It's just neat. And the crowds have been different since things have returned. Way less sensitive, way less uptight. People, I think it might just be the selection process of people choosing to come to comedy shows really want to be there. So they're not exactly uptight or picky.
I'm in Massachusetts, and Massachusetts is still pretty much closed down, but Rhode Island has opened up and New Hampshire has opened up. In Rhode Island, it was like kind of like a blue comedy scene before, but now like it's so funny. Like it's all
Blue
outdoor
as
shows.
Woke?
No, blue is in like
foul language.
Like blue comedy. Like
yes, okay.
Like joke. It's so funny. Like it's like doing the dive bars again that I started with. It's like doing. I am from Cape Cod, and Cape Cod doesn't really have a comedy scene, so you would have to do like mixed mic dive bars when you were starting, and to get attention there is like you have to. I remember I used to take my shirt off like I was Bert Kreischer, like even before that was a thing, just to like get attention at these dive bars sometimes. And it's like I would never do that now. That would be stealing a bit, but that's how you get, that's how you get attention.
That's your objection to it. Yeah.
That's how you get attention now. Is you have to be kind of like crazier, more theatric.
Yeah, I started in bar shows in Houston, Texas, and even our clubs had a bar kind of feel. So I would say some pretty awful things and not even think twice about it. So I've luckily calmed down with what I'm willing to say. But yeah, you got to be the run of the mill, more I guess pedestrian observations. You can't do a joke about chapstick. You can't get the attention. Yeah, you got to say something harsh about women or something, right out the gate, just so people look away from the NFL game they're watching on a screen next to the stage.
Yeah, they don't turn the TVs off ever.
Yeah, I've been noticing the crowds. They're just they're excited. They're very excited to be there. The park shows feel weird, man. It's weird doing a show in daylight. It's in a pretty location. I feel guilty saying anything mean. I feel guilty telling a joke of like, if I can see your face while I say something bad, it doesn't feel good. It feels fun to stand in a dark room and just say something awful, and you can hear the attention. You can hear the tension in the room, but then hopefully puncture that tension with something clever or exactly. Not so awful, kind of validate your point in an unexpected way. Is
it going to be weird doing weekend shows again?
I did Acme a couple weeks ago, and I did Philly. How
was that?
I don't think so.
I've been doing the comedy connection in Rhode Island opened up, and I've seen a couple shows, and it seems pretty much like, other than it being not as packed in.
Yeah, it's a great time. It's a great time. Crowds are really into comedy. It feels like there's a smaller turnout, but the enthusiasm makes up for it. So it feels like doing the same rooms I was doing before. And a big thing, a big theory I have right now is that for 6 months, we haven't been interacting with people very much. We've been watching everyone lie on the internet about what a good person they are. So when you go on stage and actually take some more transgressive thoughts out, people are feel validated and less alone. I feel like social media is really isolating people. And comedy is a great escape.
The social media thing is a problem. I used to, before quarantine, I would run social media as like marketing manager for a restaurant. And when social media is your job, like when you're getting paid to be on social media all the time, you realize, like, I was watching The Social Dilemma and I was like, oh, this is everything I figured out while I was working for it as a job. Like, it's just like you're trying to trick people. Like, what can I trick people into like looking at today? What can I trick?
And everything's so contentious because you'd say things to people online you would never say to their face. I meet people who are so loud online and opinionated and bold, and then you see them in person, like, oh, hey, what's up?
Do you deal with that as like a public person? I mean, you have a Comedy Central half hour out that people can see. You're on Roast Battle. You have a following. Is that, how do you deal with the hate well, or how did you deal with that?
This thing, if I don't read the comments, there is no hate. So, and I've started to realize that's not like, oh, everyone's mad about this. I did to my girlfriend, like, oh, everyone's upset about the jokes. I mean, you mean 3 Twitter comments? That's not real life. Those aren't real people. If someone objects to your joke to your face or sends you a message, I mean, that's one thing, but like, I'm trying to discount, those aren't people to me anymore. Like, those like anonymous accounts sending you bullshit and outs. Yeah, if I don't read Twitter comments, no. And Facebook and Instagram, I don't get much blowback. So I mean, you're in front of a crowd and they can sense that there's some hint of sarcasm or to what you're saying. Yeah, people respond to stuff really well when you say it to them in person and show them that you have an understanding of a range of ideas and that it's not black and white. All this stuff. Yeah, if we could have these discussions face to face, we'd all be a lot more respectful of each other's opinions.
It is. There's people who took this time, the quarantine, and either went one of 2 ways. They did, they tried to work on themselves and be better, or they took the social media route and they just kind of started spiraling in the anger. And you can kind of see that now that things are opening up. You can kind of see the people who went the 2 opposite ways.
Yes.
I picked up meditating. I do yoga every day. I talk about this a lot on the podcast, so I won't make them
I don't
go
mind
through
hearing
it.
about it.
But I love that. Like, I realize that I need to be able to calm myself. And you do that. I'm guessing you do. You make sculptures. And your sculptures are amazing.
This is a new one.
They're
Trying to figure out if I
so
want to
cool.
give them green fingernails or this kind of gold yellow one. I like that gold yellow color, but it's gonna have a cool
I like
face.
the gold too.
Cool. All right, gold it is then. Wait, let me grab.
Wow.
Can I show the newest one I made that's not online?
Of course.
Yet?
I love this.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
so he
you.
makes these sculptures that I've been a fan of for a long time. They're so dope. They're like fake. They're like Pokemon that haven't been created. And man, I'm so
yeah. I'm trying to move a little bit away from Pokemon. I definitely will always
I'm
be
so
inspired
sorry.
by.
I don't
no,
wanna...
they are very much. You can definitely see that I'm influenced by Pokemon. I'm still early in this process. This is a newer one I made.
That one's
that's
dope.
online.
I love
this
that.
is my favorite ever because it doesn't.
Yeah,
the first thing I made that doesn't look too much like a Pokemon, and it's also
That's
kind
so
of
cool.
Yeah, aren't those so cool?
And then this one I finished recently.
Oh, I
a little
love
more
the teeth
Pokemon-ish,
on
but
that.
it's creepy looking. Has a mouth between its eyes, and everything's
I
in
love that.
threes because
It's
you don't
very
see
October.
3 in nature. October? Why is it
It's
October?
very October. It reminds me of something spooky.
Oh, good. Okay, I love that. And then, yeah, those I've been spending. They take the thing about sculpture that is very frustrating is it. Did we lose Sam?
No,
No,
he's
I'm
here.
here.
Okay.
I'm here.
They take a long time. So these things will take 10, 20 hours to make each of them, which is why I don't do commissions or sell them. But yeah, I got really into that. I mean, I was always into it, but during quarantine, I was not having comedy to do. And I could have, wrote a script or like worked on my career, but instead I've been doing math. I've been watching a lot of math videos and reading some math textbooks and learning some subjects I never learned. I've been tutoring a little bit for fun. And those aren't meditation or yoga, which I should also be doing. But
no, but those get you
social
into
media
meditative.
spirals.
Those get you into meditative states. It's that thing where you kind of have to have hobbies. You have to have things that aren't furthering yourself in like a career wise. Like I love bowling for that reason. I go bowling by myself. I have my own ball because it's meditative.
Right. And it's not something that you can, I had Monday Punday, which I really got a lot of joy out of, which is my web comic. I would post a drawing every Monday. I did it for like 9 years. So it was in the high 400s and had a following. So I built an app that was really cool, but I felt it being commercialized. I felt it being a thing I was doing for other people. And I made a pilot for Comedy Central out of it. We shot it as a TV show and people were waiting for it every week. And I realized I wasn't doing it for me anymore. I was doing it for the people, which is fine. I mean, I do my comedy for other people, but it became part of my work and the passion for it died. And sculpture, luckily, no one's paying. Well, not luckily, no one's paying me for it because it's not a consumable good. But I love keeping it separate. Something like bowling, of like, you're not going to. It's not going to become part of your work. You're not going to go pro.
Exactly,
I don't think so. Maybe you're really good. I don't mean to assume.
No, I'm not.
Having that boundary between professional and fun.
How did you get into it? So art's something that I can't do because I don't have the attention span for it. So like creating Pokemon is something as a kid I would not. I know your step, but creating creatures or whatever was something I would aspire to do, but I could never put my mind to actually doing it. Like, how did you get into this?
So I do lie a little bit. And the one joke I have about picky, I started when I was about 4 or 5. My parents bought me clay from the store and said, here, you can make stuff with it. And I did. So I clearly had some natural gravitation towards creating things with my hands. I really found the 3-dimensional aspect of it really fun. Having something you could pick up and rotate was just orders of magnitude more satisfying than drawing something. And I think a lot of people's parents buy clay for them. One thing my parents did though was they didn't buy me every toy I wanted. I'm not saying woe is me, but a lot of times I'd want a toy and they're like, no, that's stupid. It's just a worthless toy. Your attention span, you'll move on in a week. We're not going to just buy you everything you want. So but my next door neighbor, Ben, got every toy he wanted. So I would make a sculpture. So my girlfriend's closing the door so she can work. I would make a sculpture of the toy I wanted. So, and then I would see my friend's real version of it. So I constantly wanted to make the sculptures as close to the real thing as possible in a competition to have the toy or have the best version of it. So it became, I became incentivized to do it well.
Did you do it throughout your whole life or did you take a break? Because I mean, you're good at it. I mean, you probably know that, but like
you should see the really good sculptors, by the way. You should see what like actual like professional polymer clay sculptors can do. It's unreal.
But you also are a professional. You're a professional in something else too. You know, you took this out of your time.
Yeah, well, thank you. I put enough time into it to be as mediocre as I am, but thank you. I did it through high school. I mean, I did it less and less from elementary school through high school. I did it less and less. And in college, I didn't have any clay. So I probably made like a handful of things over the course of college. I would like come home and make something for summer break, but maybe 5 or 10 things over those 4 years. And then when I got out of college, I had, I was 22, had a job, I was single, and kind of just, I think it was Mr. Peppy was a character on Futurama, and I really loved it. I realized no one had made it yet, and I realized if I made it really quickly, I would be the first person to make it. I would be its ambassador into 3 dimensions. So I made it and put it online, and I was active on Reddit. So whenever I posted a picture of a sculpture, it would get some upvotes and, spur that dopamine rush. And I just started making a bunch of stuff. I had a lot of time. I was lonely, and it's been, I guess, 10 years doing it as an adult, and I try to improve and try to be better with each sculpture and learn new tricks with each new sculpture. And it's just really fun. And now I take it a little more seriously. Now I draw the characters before I make them and draw multiple versions. And I used to only make other people's creations. Only in the past 3 years have I tried to make my own characters.
Do you create backstories and stuff behind them, or do you just have
I don't. There's a tiny bit in my mind of what inspired it. A lot of times it's a Pokemon type, but I'll just want a character that looks. Usually I want kind of two disparate elements of I want creepy but also cute, or I want fiery but fairy-like, or something like that. So I love those counterbalances of styles. I especially love cute and weird.
You talked about people trying to monetize, or monetizing Monday Punday. Have people tried to monetize this? And is that
people
something
people try to buy? Yeah, people are like, can I commission something? And it takes a whole lot of enthusiasm to start and finish a sculpture. So if I'm not crazy about the idea of what I want to make, I'm probably not going to finish it. And per hour, if I charge $10 per hour, I'd be charging hundreds of dollars for a thing you can hold in your palm that might break upon shipping. That's the other thing. They're fragile. And up close, it might have imperfections. And I don't want to charge someone for something that's not that good. Just buy the toy. If it already exists somewhere, just go buy the toy. It's going to be way better than what I can make. If you have an original character, I made something for a girl named Ginny. She designed because she made me a painting of Squirtle, Blastoise, and Wartortle. And I wanted to make her a sculpture. And I said, if you design a Pokemon of your own design, I'll make it for you. And she made a dragon poison type EV evolution. And that was really fun to make. Yeah, knowing it didn't exist out there. It's also when it doesn't. If it already exists, then if I make it, and then you have something to compare it to note where it's incorrect. You can notice the ears are too big or the legs are too short or something like that. If it's its own thing, it's judged. It says not judged against the Westminster dog show standards.
Do you feel that way with jokes and putting out a half-hour special? These jokes are kind of they're out there and they're in whatever it's worth. Do you feel that way with jokes? Because you said Reddit. I see people promoting comedy on Reddit a lot, and it's kind of weird to me. It's not something I like to keep comedy pure in a way.
Most of what haunts me with comedy is just being is this that original? Is someone else doing another version of this? Is this that inventive? So that's always what bugs me with it. And I'm slow to write material, so I'm afraid to push stuff out, because what if I want to keep doing it? But when I do a late night set or something like that, I'll share it, or a video. I'll try to share it on the comedy subreddits, and I made it, and if it's out there, then it's ready to be retired. And I think there's some people who haven't heard of me who might like my stuff, so I'd like to share with them. So I don't mind. I've learned to get better about promoting myself. I think there's a healthy amount of it you have to do, and I think you're probably put off by people who are too at ease with promoting themselves.
Not at all. No, I was in the field for that. I mean people who don't you're a you are a professional, but I mean people who aren't and try to, I don't know. I guess I was speaking
I've learned not to judge. No. It's a really interesting subject of you'd like to think of it as an art form, but you also seek to monetize it. So it's clearly a commercial good as well. And you will walk that line. You do have to plug show dates. You do have to share clips. It feels gross, but you got to get over it. Unless you want to be a back of the room comic who just kills at his local showcases and never goes on to anything, you get to be that. But
it's a projection of, I guess, self-hatred, if I'm being, you know what I mean? It's I don't want to promote myself if I'm not ready, even though you can have as many whatever good sets, bad sets, people telling you to post, but it's still like you have to get to that level of yourself of being like, I believe in myself enough to be able to do this. And I guess saying that is like a projection of being like, those people are doing that at least, you know?
Yeah. And it's
This is a self-help podcast. I'll try to fix myself on here.
I think it's applicable to a lot of things. You want to be aware of your shortcomings and able to critique yourself. Otherwise you won't improve. But then you also have to have that blind self-love in order to be like, here's a joke I wrote, and I'm going to just throw it out there to the wolves. It's my girlfriend's really helping with that. It's just like, don't be afraid to treat it like a job and to sell what you're creating.
Yeah, you guys have a podcast about her starting stand-up. Is that gonna? You took a little break. Is that going to be coming back? Or are you?
Yes. We're trying to do an episode today. We're very sloppy about putting out regularly, but we try to put out episodes when we have good guests or good topics, and we have some fun guests lined up and some fun episodes very soon.
That's the funny thing. It's like with comedy, I feel that way, but with podcasting, at least a podcast every single week since I've started, which isn't much. This is episode 18, I think. And it's not much, but it's like you just have to force yourself. And I hate listening to myself talk. So editing clips or listening to the episodes is so horrible. But it is that kind of, you said, blind self-love. You just kind of have to do it.
I'm great, and then stick your fingers in your ears and go la 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 la.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You were saying you read. You were reading some math books, learning things you didn't learn in college, and before you were talking about kind of comedy as an art. Your mind works in a mathematical way. Is that
I think that's fair to say.
Is that how you
down the logical components of things? Yeah.
Is that how you work with joke writing? Like, do you try to think of it like an equation, like this plus this is going to, or is it more organic?
It's organic in the formation, but I do like to look back at jokes and figuring out why they worked and seeing if that helps me figure out future jokes. And I've developed a bit more of an algorithm. I don't think I do anything that different from how other comedians write jokes. I just like to look at the source code a little bit more. I think you can understand the processes that streamline writing a joke, but and it's more just for entertainment's sake. I just like knowing what makes a joke work and what strategy might help me arrive at a punchline faster.
Are you a fan of comedy still? Like going out, do you listen to it, or is it more?
Yeah, I still am. I think it's super lame when comics don't like comedy. I think it's totally just an effort to be cool. I really don't like that. I'm a little picky, but the longer I've been doing comedy, the more I appreciate what other people do. I think when I was 2 years in, the most prickly and defensive, and when I was so much worse than I thought I was, that was when I was the most judgmental. And since then, I just can appreciate what everyone does a little more. I don't feel competitive. I feel like I'm more in my own lane now, so I'm not threatened by other people. And it's so, there's comedy for everyone, and I just like seeing how different it can be.
How'd you find it? How'd you find it?
Short story is just a flyer for an open mic. I had the idea in my head for doing it, and I was gonna do it. And then I was at a bar and they said open mics on Mondays. So I was like, there's a sign. And
did you have anything prepared?
Yeah. I think I spent like a week just throwing some jokes down and like running it by friends, and they're like, cool. And first set was really fun. I think I was just so excited to be up there that the crowd was just into the enthusiasm, not the jokes.
How old were you?
23.
23. I I was like the reason I loved roast battles, like when I was like a loner when I was a kid, loser, and I just loved comedy. I would just like, sit and listen to it. I got in a hockey accident. That's how I got into it. But the first time I did it, I was 17, and I used a fake ID to get into the Comedy Store. And I was on Kill Tony. And it was funny, Mike Lawrence was the host on that. So that was a little kind of another reason I wanted you to win.
What year was that?
What year was that?
So I was going to say, if it was before 2015, Mike was not as nice back then.
Yeah, I think it was before 2015. I think it was Mike, 2015. It was right around that time.
Mike's always been a funny guy, but he was a little less patient with young comics back then. Now he's a big old sweetheart, but
I remember that. I remember him coming up after me and being like, "Hey, you shouldn't punch down like that." And I was like, I got so scared I didn't do because I did a joke about homeless people. It was the first one I ever wrote, and it was all right. But I didn't do it again until I was 21 is when I started taking it seriously and doing it, every night. But that was such like a horrible first experience. I feel like it. I'm happy I finally got back into it.
That's awesome.
But sorry, I just went off on a tangent right there.
No, I like those starting stories. So just one time at 18, and then you were too traumatized to come back.
Yeah, I did it. I actually went back to LA again when I was 19 and got on Kill Tony again with Steve-O and just bombed so hard and those were the first.
Those were your first two sets with Kill Tony.
My first was the belly room and then the main room of the
it's like
comedy
learning how to
store.
swim in the middle of the ocean.
Exactly, yeah. And I just stopped doing it for like 2-3 years. I was like, this is harsh.
Yeah, that's why it's hard starting out in comedy. You're so vulnerable. You're so any little thing. I remember there was this like one little interaction I had that I almost didn't come back after it because it was so early on. I was so raw about it, and no matter how tough you are, it's just tough. And it's been cool watching my girlfriend start. It was a year and a half in now, and it was. She went being like, oh, it's gonna be whatever. It's just you're just telling jokes. How it's not gonna bug me that much. I was a professional swimmer. I have a hard job. And she'd come back from the open mics. She was like, why does that suck so much? Why does that feel so bad? I'm like, I don't know. And you feel bad that you feel so bad. Well,
you have to be a masochist a little bit. Yeah.
A little bit. You have to, it's that amnesia. You have to just forget how much it sucks when it sucks and only remember how good it is when it's good.
Was Houston that's where you said you started? Was that a good starting off, a good place to start?
Yeah, I don't know how things would have gone for me if I had started anywhere else, but it was great. It was a big city, but not a huge scene, so there was a lot of stage time, and there wasn't that much competition to get on really good stages. It wasn't like Chicago. There wasn't like open mics. There weren't showcases when I started. There was just open mics, and the crowds there were good enough to do your set for. You didn't have to do that weird back of the room stuff. A lot of times shows were in bars. You could drive out to other, book shows. And then after a year or so, we would, me and a comic or two would go to Austin for a weekend to do their showcases because they have showcases and open mics. And you would just bring your best material. And Austin was a place where you could actually kind of get seen. And get booked. And then there was Dallas. There was 5 clubs in Dallas that you could work. San Antonio, I never did that, but it was a wonderful place to start, and really cohesive scene. It wasn't that bitter. There were some older comics who had that kind of a little bit of a bullying mentality to the new comics. Not too much, but that you have to be initiated, you have to pay your dues before you can come sit with us kind of vibe. And I don't mind that.
Well, you're in New York and you said your girlfriend's starting in New York. I bet that's such a different, like, I couldn't imagine starting in like such a big, like Boston's kind of like one of those medium cities.
Boston's definitely closer to New York than it is Houston, I would imagine, in terms of the size and the grittiness of the open mic scene and the competition for showcase spots. But yeah, her starting here, but she's learned to get really good really fast, and she's had to, you can't be a hobbyist in New York. You got to just dive in. You got to go up every night, and then there's, pretty quickly you get access to pretty cool shows. You can be performing with your heroes within a year or two, because your friend books a show and books, Sam Morrill, and then you get to do a guest spot on a show with Sam Morrill, someone you watched on YouTube before you even started. So that's when you should see. But yeah, there's the wins are fewer and far between. I don't know if I could have started in New York City and just bombed most of those shows.
Yeah, you must have like a thick skin to do that, and it's good that she must have had thick skin before that. So
yeah,
you you were talking about how you're writing. You kind of have a formula. Do you sit down and write, or is it more of just like throughout your day you think about bits?
The best stuff comes just to you. It just comes into your head, pops in your head from living life. But then I'll run things by friends and see if I can I kind of figure out the ideas behind it, or a tag or punchline. Sitting down and writing for me is more just looking through my old ideas. There's a lot I didn't realize till recently, the benefit of just kind of digging back through old ideas, because you think you remember stuff you don't. I'll see jokes that I don't remember ever having that idea. It looks like someone else wrote in my notebook in my handwriting. So just looking through my set, looking at what jokes I have, planning sets, and that's such a simple thing. But my advice is just don't just go on stage and be like, I'll figure out what to do. Of course, you can just go up there and drone out your act, but plan it out, figure out where to stick in that new joke, figure out what tags you wanted to try a new order. The more you plan, the more you can improvise. So that's my writing process right now, just scanning ideas and making sure you write down the ideas when you have them.
Yeah, treating it professional.
On stage. Yeah.
There's a book by Stephen Pressfield called The War of Art that talks about just kind of, taking it professionally in anything. When you take it seriously, the universe takes it seriously too, not to get into all weird stuff, but it shows people who, even with your sculptures, it shows that you have time and you put time into it.
Yeah.
Now, when you got back on stage, when you did a weekend, was that your first time doing a long set, or had you worked up to that? Had you been doing longer sets before that, getting back into it?
I had some 20s before I did my first headlining weekend, but it had been a little while. I had to plan. I had to look at my set list and remember everything. And I certainly, some jokes over the course of 6 sets, my jokes came back. I remembered the tags, I remembered the angles, and got back up to speed. It wasn't too ugly.
Yeah, I felt that way. I mean, I'm not doing headlining sets, but it did feel kind of like riding a bike, where it was kind of like, oh, I remember what I'm supposed to do. Did you do theater or anything growing up?
No. Middle school I did it, but I never did a play. I did no, for the most part. So you saw the open mic and you were just like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. Yeah. I'd done a talent show the year before and told some jokes just because I didn't have anything else to do, and I was kind of forced to participate. And that was fun. I don't think I did well, but I just remember being fun, and that might have planted that seed. That was when I was 22, of performing is fun. But talking in front of groups of people always made me nervous in high school if I had to speak at assembly. And then by the end of high school, I was like, oh, it's kind of fun. It's not like I'm not nervous. It's exciting to go up there and talk in front of people and keep your nerves about you. But no, not much of a performance background. My parents stifled it pretty hard. They wanted me to work on my academics. That was my strength. That was what they told me I was going to make a career out of, was mathematics ability. There's so many professions where we can use that, and I had training and ability, and it was kind of why I loved comedy so much. It was like the ultimate act of rebellion to pursue this thing that blocked this room in the house for all these years, and I finally got to open the door and entertain the notion of doing something other than math professionally. So when things started to click, it felt really good.
Do you look back and think that's such a weird, like how one thing can happen and it just kind of changes your life forever? Like, do you think
Yes.
about that? That's like a weird.
I think a thing I get think about a lot is if you change some key events in my life, what college I went to, what sports I chose, what people I met, would I be doing comedy on other timelines? And my gut says no. My gut says I wouldn't have found it. It was just kind of through a lot of coincidences that happened at this place on this night and happened to start. And that it went well enough that first night that I kept doing it. So this feels like, of all of the potential timelines of my life, this feels like there's only a very small fraction of them include me doing comedy. So that's trippy to me. And I wonder what those other timelines would look like. Would I be good at a regular job? Would I have found something else? Like, I didn't have music or theater, and comedy was the only thing you could start at 23 without being way behind the rest of the class. How about you? Because you seem pretty dedicated to doing it. So you and I are maybe different in that regard. You tried twice and failed and still came back. I don't think I would have come back.
Well, I always liked comedy, but I never thought, like, I met I saw Jim Gaffigan on my 10th birthday and met him, just weird things. Like, I wasn't even but then when I was 16, I got in a really bad hockey accident. I got like a level 5 out of 5 concussion. I'd only been playing for 2 months. And I had to lay in a dark room and just listen to podcasts and comedy. I couldn't even listen to music. So all I could do was listen to people talk. So I just kind of fell in love with comedy and podcasting after that. After that month of that's all I did, I was kind of like, okay, this is my calling. But as I said, it took me so long to have those steps fall into place. It was kind of like the world. I was just reading The Alchemist. Have you ever read that book? He talks about like omens and stuff, and a lot of those are like omens that were shown, but it took kind of a long time for them to fall into place and start working in my favor.
Yeah. Wow.
Are you a spiritual person at all?
Not at all. I love it.
So you think about you. Oh, sorry. What were you saying? No, you go first.
I had something similar to you in that another thing that was occupying my. I was pretty bad at my job when I was out of college. Those first couple of years in Houston, I was always distracted. I didn't have much discipline. I wasn't a good employee. I was doing triathlon, so I swam all of college on the club team. And I really wanted to get good enough to like walk on a college team or maybe transfer, and I never got there. I just wasn't that talented of a swimmer, despite all of the hard work. And then I started doing triathlon right after college, and all of the work I put into swimming had paid off in my running and biking, unbeknownst to me. It felt like I was investing in another account that I didn't know about. So when it came to triathlons, I was basically a natural runner who had worked 4 years exclusively on the swimming. So I had a pretty even set of ability. So I was pretty good. I was one of the fastest in Houston. And it was the first sport I was good at. So I, at 22, 23, was just spending 12 to 15 hours a week exercising, running, biking, and swimming really hard. And I got like a sponsorship where I could compete for free, and I got some free stuff and got free training. And I was really going after it. I didn't know what the end game was. I just wanted to do it. It gave me a sense of purpose, but at the same time, it also made me really tired and really sad all of the time because it's so much work and I was so lonely and it isolated me. And then I was just training too hard and I got a foot injury that kind of kept me from running. So that kind of broke my spirit a little bit. And that kind of coincided with when I started doing stand-up. So basically all that energy I had funneled into triathlon, I funneled into to comedy because it was another thing I was seemingly had some natural ability for. And I was able to just move that valve over without spilling much. And I pretty shortly after doing open mics stopped doing triathlons. And also the schedule of the triathlete in comedy just don't work. I mean, 6 a.m. swims, I would do 6 a.m. swims probably once or twice a week. And then I would have to wake up to run before work if I wanted to run and bike in the same day. And or I'd wake up and do an hour. I would wake up and get on my stationary bike in my apartment and do an hour before work, just sitting there on a bicycle, biking nowhere by myself, just cranking out the minutes. So you can't do that and stay out till 1 a.m., waiting for your name to be pulled out of a hat.
Do you run still, or do you do any exercise still?
I've tried to restart running. I'm too big. I'm not. My body. I didn't take care of my body, so I can run a couple times. I run like once, twice a week and not get too injured. But no, I don't run that hard or that often. I bike around town. I do different workouts. I still really like exercising, but and I still really like cardio. I like Peloton a lot. I like circuits. I like weightlifting now. So still a big part.
I run. I picked up running, and I'm big too. I'm 6'4", and when I was at my heaviest, I was 260, and I was still running 3 miles a day at 260, which is
Your
heavy.
My
knees. So I hurt my calf really bad, in my knees, and that's when I picked up yoga, and I started doing yoga every day, and I still run, and I'm down to 220 now. I lost some weight, but I like running because I don't have to compete with anyone, and I can block out, and I can just kind of like, it's meditative. But I'm worried about my body and hurting it now. Like, I'm putting a lot of weight on my knees.
Just don't run too fast or too hard. You can do it at those those higher weights, but I'm 195 now. And when I was 180, I could fly. I think I was 170 in college when I was running. I ran a little bit in college and I was 170. When I was doing triathlons and doing all my best times in running, I was probably 180 to 185, which was still big compared to the other triathletes. Those guys are like 150 pounds. And even if I was with them on the bike ride, once we got off the bikes, they would just fly. Like, there's just nothing to carry. I'm almost 6'2". And I can run, but if I go too hard, I could just break myself.
Yeah.
Very easily.
It's tough. And I picked up biking over quarantine too, because there was nothing. It's funny. I was a very lazy kid. And then this is weird, but when I started smoking weed, it made me want to be active. So that's the only reason I ever wanted to run or work out. Like, I started lifting because of it. I started running because of it. And it was a really weird thing because it doesn't affect anyone else that way. And I don't like to talk about it too much because I feel like people will be like, oh, it doesn't. But it makes me want to work out. It's a strange thing because I'm lazy even when I don't.
Interesting. That's really interesting. Weed makes me, I don't have that effect with weed, but I can understand that it affects people differently. For me, weed is euphoric. Like, when I smoke weed, I feel like I'm on Molly. Everything's amazing, and I'm just like giddy with happiness, but I don't have motivation. And then the next day, it feels like I'm coming down from Molly. I feel very drained of all those positive feelings, and I've taken edibles, and the next day canceled my plans and stayed home like in a fetal position. So
it's like a hangover. You just have to keep drinking.
I get a really bad hangover from getting too high. So and that's, other people don't relate to that either. So I can imagine it giving you motivation. It's not that weird.
Yeah, it affects people differently. It's weird how it does, though.
You know Dan Lamort?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is he? He's a New York guy, right? He's from New York originally. Okay, yeah, I know he's here now, but he loves to get high and run, and he's like training for ultra marathons and lost well over 100 pounds. So he's a big advocate of active marijuana use.
It's the same reason I could never do sculpting like you. I'm too hyper. I can't focus. So when I get high and I run, it's great because it like slows my mind down. It's like, you're going to do this for the next 40 to 50 minutes. You can't do anything else. Just like, you can check your brain off and keep going.
I mean, I think we're similar in that regard. That's why I loved running. I started running in middle school. I loved it so much, but then I switched over to swimming. But both, I'm very ADD, and it's the pain. I love the pain of endurance sports because it blocks all of your channels. The pain is a thing that jams your mind from thinking about other things. You're here with this now. You can't be elsewhere. The pain is it's just screaming too loud at you. So you have to just be focused and in this moment, which is why I've been city biking a lot. And for me personally, my problem is I'm a little too competitive even with myself. So when I run or bike or something like that, I can't just take it easy. I want to go best times. I want to push myself to my limits.
People ask to
and-
go for bike rides with me, and I'm like, I don't think you want to, because I'm going to be pushing hard. Like,
Right.
people will go and be like, never invite me on a bike ride again.
Yeah, I'm that way with a lot of exercise, and I city bike now. So my goal isn't speed. And luckily, it's not about the workout; it's about surviving. So it forces you to be in the moment of just which cars are going to kill me, which pedestrians are going to step out into the sidewalk, and that's just enough to keep me focused. And sculpture keeps me really focused. But sculpture is also it's a visual and then tactile act. So I can also like listen to things while I sculpt. It jams a good portion of my focus up, but it's a very involved thing that I can't walk away from. It's like why video games can be, why it's easier to stay focused on a video game than a book.
Yeah.
Because it occupies so many of your senses.
Well, that's why I got into audiobooks while I was running, because I'll put on an audiobook while I run, and I'll like try to learn to try to like shut my brain off. And it's that thing where you just have to, you can multitask if you find things that you can just do not do naturally, but do without kind of thought when you're just kind of on autopilot.
Yeah.
So you were a swimmer. You were a swimmer and you're a comedian now, and your girlfriend kind of switched that. And I know that is that kind of how it works? Because that's why I like running, is because I'm not a competitive person, but I don't even like to put that feeling out there of I could get competitive.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Oh, I don't even know what the question was there. I just kind of went off on a tangent. But no, but does it work because you kind of switched places? The competitiveness kind of turns off?
I don't think we both went from swimming to comedy. So what do you mean by switch places?
Well, I guess you both did. So is that why it worked? Why it works? Because you had both those. I guess I was saying she was a professional swimmer. Now she's trying comedy, and you were trying swimming, and now you're a professional comedian.
Yeah. Oh, we do compare that. I always like to be like, am I as good at comedy as you were at swimming? And she's like, no, you're not. I was way, but it's maybe closer now. But yeah, we both understand being being pretty high up in a field that's pretty competitive, but also doesn't pay a lot to many people.
Exactly. Yeah. That's kind
the
of
one thing is the uselessness of the effort. Most of the effort you put into comedy is pretty worthless. Like it's unlikely to pay off for most people, as with swimming. So
it's just like I'm waiting for that euphoric feeling where I can just pay at least one bill with like when my bills can be paid with, that's all I need is like, I just want to, but it also doesn't matter. I don't care working at a loss over something I love.
Yes.
And I think that kind of
sculpting right now.
Yeah, because it's a passion. It's something you love.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what the quarantine has showed me, of just being like, look for those things in your life that bring you that. Not those little shallow victories, those little social status symbols. Just what are the things that you can sit in a room by yourself and feel good about, that you don't need other people to click like.
Exactly. Are you going to, the sculpting thing, are you just going to, it's going to be your meditation? You're going to keep going. You're not trying to grow it.
I'm just going to keep working at it and do it to the extent that it brings me joy. I mean, I do share my shit on Instagram, so maybe I'm walking down that treacherous path towards seeking validation from strangers and trying to monetize it. But it's just fun. It's just really, really fun. So yeah, that open mic mentality. Just do it to do it. Yeah.
Do it for the love. Man, I really, really appreciate you being on. Do you want to plug anything? I will post your social media and I'll tag you and everything.
Yeah, share my sculpture page, Cock Block Gargoyles. That's what I'm promoting lately. And if you're interested in comedy or you do comedy, shoot us stand up too. We have some great guests, and it's a lot of advice for comedians, people getting started, how to write a joke, how to promote yourself, all of that. We try to cover it. So that's a good listen if you're in the comedy world.
Awesome. You can follow me at Sam C. Buck on Instagram or at Bucked Up Podcast. And at Sam C. Buck, you can see where I'll be performing all over Massachusetts. And make sure to check out Matthew Broussard's stuff. You can check out his Comedy Central half-hour special, which is really funny. You can also watch clips of Roast Battle on YouTube, which I really I suggest you all do. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.
Thanks, Sam.